Hi and welcome to these web screen configurator videos. This video is going to show some examples of using the basic visibility commands. These are all examples requested by customers, and the first one involves the Your Ordered Reports screen. In desktop, as I'll show you here, we've got maintenance of ordered reports, and one of the values that you can add, one of the columns that you can add to that is the variant. If you simply add it in the inquiry setup, click OK, and then change it back, then I have the variant column showing me which variant of any given ordered report was used. It can be quite important for example, batch uploads of transactions to make sure the correct import variant has been used. If we look at web, at the Your Ordered Reports screen, we can see that variant column doesn't exist. Quite often the way around this might be to go to Windows Options and see what other columns are hidden. But if I go to Windows Options in the Your Ordered Reports screen, let's just expand all, we can see that actually the columns we see are the only columns available, so variant isn't there. So how can Web Screen Configurator help? Well, the first thing to note here is to firstly see where the information is coming from for this information that it shows, and to see if variant is what's called, or what I would call, a natural field. A natural column in this case, as it's a table. In other words, is variant in the same table that all the rest of the information is coming from. So I've got my debug turned on for the screen. This is screen TRA003, so I've turned that debug on for that code. I've copied it over into my Excel spreadsheet, done a bit of conditional formatting, and we can see that this section here, which is called data, shows those columns that we see in the screen, and the table it's getting that information from is ACR rep ord. So what we can do is have a look at that table to see if the data we want is already part of that table. The way I'm going to do this is, lots of different SQL select options are available. I'm going to use the report engine. I don't need to do any inserts or updates or anything like that, so I'm just going to select the top 3 rows. Again, I don't care about rows, I only care about columns from ACR rep ord. So if I run that, I'm already logged in to report engine. There's my 3 rows, and I can see there's 42 different potential columns that we could add into this screen from that table. If I just double click on that, let's make this a bit bigger. Let's see if variant is one of them. It's in alphabetical order, so if I scroll all the way across to the right hand side, I can see that variant is indeed a natural column in that report. What that means is, if I've got a table with a column that I want and a screen where the information is being fetched from that table, all I need to do is give that value, the variant in this case, a column that it can go into. I don't need to do anything more than that. I just need to create a column, call it by the same name as the table column, and it will naturally fill that column with that data. So I'll show you that I've done this in Web Screen Configurator. So if I go into my Web Screen Configurator attribute master file, there's my code TRA003, again, same as Your Ordered Reports. Go into the Visibility tab, and I've simply added a line with the section name. Remember from here, the section is called data, and I've called it the field name variant, and this just needs to match what we have in our report engine to make sure it's the same as the column label. If that all matches, it should populate itself. I've clicked on show. I don't think I actually need to do that. It will show automatically, but just out of habit I've clicked on show, and I'll change the status over here to N so that it actually activates. Going along with that, so in the titles, I've also got the same section name and field name that's been kind of created or made visible in the Visibility tab, and I've given it a title of variant. And again, I will make that status active, click on save. So now if I go back to Your Ordered Reports and click on clear, there's my variant column. And if I just set this back by a few days, let's set it back to the beginning of October, and click on load, there we go, there's my variant in that column. All right, this next example is arguably even simpler than the first one, and this is manipulation of an existing field. So in the position register, a customer wanted the position type to be mandatory, which it isn't by default, and so someone creating a new position in the position register could save a position without that value being there. Again, the first place everyone would go is to Windows Options. I can tell you that making that mandatory is not an option through Windows Options, but Web Screen Configurator can do that. As always, I've turned on my debugging, I've extracted that information, and so I can see the label of this field, so I know which field that I'm going to be manipulating. So it's called position type, it's in position details section. So if I go into my debugging download, let's find that section. So remember, it's position details, that's here, title position details. You can see it's pulling its information from APR post, and the field that I want is position type, which is this one here, which is just called type. So details and type, details the section, type is the field. Alright, so with that information, I can go into Web Screen Configurator. I can go into my position register attribute value, THS032, so that's the same code as the screen, into the visibility tab, and I can simply add a line saying section name details, field name type, and then tick the mandatory box. So with this in set up, let me just activate that by changing the status to N and save. So now if I come back in here and clear the screen, we can see straight away we've got our little red asterisk on position type. And if I try and save with no value there, if I just change that and tab, you can see I've got my error at the bottom, position type must contain a value. Alright, this next example involves the import transaction screen. So in desktop, in this screen, which is batch input maintenance and transactions from external system, they've both been merged in web into one import transaction screen. And in desktop, you can see all of the cat 1 to 7 information plus a whole bunch of other information. And I think you can even, if I press F7, you can add, if I click on setup, sorry, F7, you can add other columns of information to this view and it will remember your setup. You can see there's 70 odd different columns, of which a subset of those are chosen by default. So in desktop, the customer is used to seeing all of this information. Now in web, that information is massively reduced in the table. So as much as I can click on a line and see the information and change the information in the details area, I can't see it in the table. So the customer wanted to be able to see cat4, cat6 and the APAR ID in this table as well. So how can I get those values to appear? So very much like the variant on the ordered reports, these are naturally occurring values that are in the same table that provides the information we can see. They're just waiting for a column to be available. Windows Options doesn't give us the option of those columns, by the way, which is why Web Screen Configurator is going to be used. So all I need to do is find out where this information is coming from and what those column names are. So I've turned on my debugging and I've extracted that information into Excel. The section, which is transactions, which you can see, is known as grid, and it's pulling the information from ACR batch input, and these are all the current values that it's displaying, different columns. Again, if I go into report engine and run a report based on ACR batch input just to see all the different column names, then the results of that are shown here. And so I've got 92 different potential columns of information that I could show in that screen. I can see APAR type is there. That's one of the ones I need. And if I scroll across, as well as the DIM 1, 2 and 3 that is shown, I've also got DIM 4 and DIM 6. So knowing those values, those column headers, that's what I need to introduce into the system. So back in the Web Screen Configurator, I've created my attribute master file, which is TCR021, same code as import transactions. In visibility, I've added 3 lines, all in the grid section and with the relevant field names that I got from the report engine, that are in that table. I've clicked on show just to ensure that they're being displayed. Again, I'm not sure if that's necessary, but it's my habit to tick show if I'm showing something. And I've also selected them as read only because of course you can't change the information in here, you can only change it in the detail area. Those three items, that's going to create those columns. I'm just going to switch all those to active. Whenever you create a new column or field, you also need then to give it a title. So in titles, I've got the same three, given them a title. I could just as easily have called this cat4 and cat6 and API ID if I wanted to be more vague, but they have them specifically as work order and company. So I've given them those titles. Again, I'm going to turn those on and save. Now if I come back to the import transaction screen and click on clear, we should see that we have on the right hand side, there we go, there's our three new columns. Now the next step to this is I actually want the work order and company to be over with the other category posting information. So I want it to sit between category 3 and tax system. So again, I'm going to go back to my debugging and see what the sequence numbers are for the existing columns. And we can see at the right hand side of all of these, we've got the sequence number that dictates how these are shown in the section. I want my new fields, my new columns, to be between category 3 and tax system, so they sit in here. What I can do is change the sequence number to 9 and it will naturally put them before the existing sequence 9 value. So I'll show you what I mean by that. If I go to Web Screen Configurator, I'll go into the Field Order tab. Notice you can change the field order of anything existing in a screen as well as anything new. My DIM4 and DIM6 fields, I've changed that to sequence number 9, which will put them before this existing sequence number 9, so they'll go before tax system, after category 3. Again, I'll turn both of those to active and save. If I come back to import transactions and refresh the screen, now my fields are where I want them to be, my columns are there. Let's just open up a batch just to show that it has some data. There we go, there's my work order. I don't have anything in company. And on the right hand side, there's my supplier number.